Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we got episode 170 today.
Wow.
We're getting up there. We're getting closer to the 200 mark.
By August. We did 100 August a couple years ago when that was only a Dave Cook on.
Yeah, so that's about right around the target area. Would be the
Are you listening, Hal? Are you listening for 200, Hal?
Right. Ways to get a hold of us. The website is digitaltodice.com. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. You can join us over there with the conversation on Facebook. Today, we're thinking about talking about playing as the favorite versus playing as the underdog. So that's going to be our topic today when we get into all that stuff there. And it kind of ties into what we're kind of doing right now, so to speak. So it's kind of a good fit for us.
It does, because a lot of you in the community, being Super Bowl week, have done some sort of Super Bowl pre-play. And obviously, whoever wins on this coming weekend is going to be the favorite for eternity or someone's favorite team. And somebody has it for the 76 creamsicles. I'm not going to mention who they are.
So, well, should we get? First we get into what we're playing. Let's talk about the weather last weekend. I was up in New Hampshire. Yeah, I did a game Friday night in New Hampshire, and I get out of the rink about 9:30, and people were walking back in the rink, and I was like, "What's going on?" They're like, "I started my car, and I'm coming back in because it's so cold. It's brutal." And I was like, "Really?" So I walked out to my car, and the 150 feet it took to get to the car, my hands were frozen because it was -8 and the wind was whipping. And I was like, holy cow. In fact, somebody was backing out of a parking spot, and they were going so slow. I was like, dude, I'm freezing. I am freezing. So I ended up walking by the car. I said, sorry, I was going to let you go, but I am freezing. And I walked by him. I got into my car. I was like, holy cow. And the tire pressure in the truck was low because it was so cold.
Oh, of course it was.
And I'm like, I hope it's not a flat. I think it's just low. And so that was a cold ride home, that night there. And I don't think I left the house Saturday. I looked out, it was like -12. When I was supposed to go to work Saturday morning, it was -12. We had canceled it. I was like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going out in this,
When we taped last week's show, the warning started from the Weather Service, I think as early as last Wednesday. I started getting notifications on Facebook where our less fortunate population could shelter up.
Yeah.
Because it was way too cold to be doing that. So they were warming shelters. And, of course, up here, even with good insulated houses, pipes freeze when it gets that cold. And
we had pipes, and people in our town were saying that the pipes are freezing. It was that cold. It really was.
So Friday night, we had a wind chill of 51 below zero in town.
Oh, man.
Which is just too cold. Thankfully for us in the apartment, the wind was blowing the wrong way. And so we turned up the heat Friday. And so it's in a nice toasty 75, 76 in here. Wind changed direction on Saturday. And although it wasn't as cold outside, the bedroom went from 76 to 64. Yeah, that's with the heat crank to 75. So
yeah, it was pretty darn cold. In fact, a friend of mine called me today. He's up in New Hampshire. He runs a ski place up there as a manager of a ski, something to do with skiing.
They're making it like crazy now.
And he said that last Saturday they got a alert that someone was out and skiing and got lost. And I'm like, why is anybody skiing when it was -12 here? It was probably colder up there with the wind chill in New Hampshire. So he said he went out with a team of people looking for this kid. And I think he said he ended up, his foot went in through the ice into a river. And yeah, that's what I said. And he said he had to actually build a fire, and he's texting people to come find him because he was starting to get cold and fall asleep. It's like, dude, you could have died. You would have died trying to rescue this kid. I said, why? You need to stay together. You can't go out by yourself in this.
No.
And so I'm supposed to see him tonight to get the full story, but I'm like, dude, I go, you could have died. You could have died.
One of the things that you worry about when it gets this cold up here is the fire, because you have to use water and you have to make sure that it doesn't freeze. Yeah. When I lived in Montpelier, where I met my wife, there was a huge fire downtown on a night that was as air temperature cold, not as wind chills, but 10 below zero. And walking to work the next morning, and it was just kind of a macabre Addams Family icicle fest, because all the water just immediately froze as soon as it hit the building and fought the fire. And so, just scary, scary stuff. And so you just worry about people. Thankfully, we got through. A few of my friends in the rural places lost power, and Sarah and I just kind of hunkered in, and we didn't even think about going anywhere. It was just
luckily cold. It was like a 24-hour thing. It was like late Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon, and then it started to warm up. In fact, Sunday morning I went back to New Hampshire for a hockey game, and it was like 55 degrees warmer than it was 24 hours earlier. I was like, what a swing that was. So we'll take that. So you can get through that. But that's really dangerous weather when it's minus 12 and you got wind chills whipping everywhere.
It's the wind chills.
Like if your car breaks down or something like that, I mean, it is so dangerous to be out there and stuff like this. So that's why we canceled hockey on Saturday morning, because I certainly do not want to get undressed and put on equipment when it's minus 12 outside. Sorry. Just not going to happen. So.
And again, people go, well, we grew up with this stuff before. Yeah, the 10, 12 below zero. So you can do a week of that. You just settle in. It's the wind chills that makes it so dangerous.
Yeah, and everyone's all tough. Well, back in my day, we didn't cancel hockey. It says, well, here's the thing. The court is still available at 7 a.m. Saturday morning. You guys can show up and play. Nobody showed up to play, but everyone's talking a good story. It says,
right.
All you tough guys, I want to see you there at 7 a.m. when it turned out to be minus 12. It was colder than we thought. I said, I want to see you guys there at 7 a.m. playing a game. And someone's going to stay there 6 hours like I would have had to stay there. You know what I mean? So I says, until somebody does that, I don't want to hear how tough you guys are. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that is the weather report. So let's slide into what we're playing.
Yeah.
I guess I'll kick things off, so to speak.
Oh, you do that. Oh.
Wrong one.
Wrong one.
There we go. You'd think I'd know these buttons after 3.5 years.
It's your mixing board.
There's only a handful of buttons, too, and I still can't guess them all. But anyway.
When I blow the intros to my own streams, I've only done this 1,000 times.
Yeah. You just look over there. Is it the green or is it the blue? I actually have 2 blues and 2 greens, so I get them all mixed up. But
okay, they're Alice in Wonderland.
Anyway, so I'm just about finished wrapping up my 76 Tampa Bay Buccaneer project, okay? As you know, I started playing, I pulled out Momentum Football, and I talked about how it was calling me, and I opened the box, and it was glowing for me to play. I don't know why, but it just was. So I started playing Momentum Football, and I decided to play all the Tampa Bay games. Mm-hmm. Very interesting results. Let me just say that. So then I said, something, I have 76 in game-winning drive. So I played game-winning drive. And then I said, I got the Mike Seelock 2-minute drill, and that played in 10 minutes. That's how fast that game plays. So I did the whole season. So I did Momentum Football, game-winning drive, and the Mike Seelock 2-minute drill. I said, something? I need to do this in Fast Drive Football. So I pulled out the Al Wilson's Fast Drive Football, and I think I'm 6 or 7 games in. So I'm almost halfway through that. So I should be able to wrap up the Fast Drive Football portion of this project with the 76 Buccaneers in the next few days. And then I'm gonna compare and contrast. I'm gonna do a little PowerPoint presentation to show the actual scores compared to the scores I got. I want to take a look at turnovers because Momentum Football just produces a ton of turnovers. So I want to see where that compares to the other 3. I want to compare all 4 games. Now, obviously, the Mike Seelock game, it doesn't have any stats. It's a final score, so that's just going to be in there for fun. But I thought it was a fun little project comparing, and I know I'm only doing the 1 game, whereas if I played this team 10 times, I might get some different results. But I thought it'd be fun to play all these games, and I have 4 different games, compare all the scores, and see how it all worked out. You
did that before with just the 1 game against Pittsburgh.
Right, I did Pittsburgh, and I played in a lot of different games.
So this is kind of an offshoot of that. You're doing the Pittsburgh game again, but you're doing the entire season.
I'm doing the entire season. I'm playing it 4 times one time with 4 different games, and I'll have an idea how they look, and we'll do a little video on that with a PowerPoint presentation and take a look at the scores, as I like to do when I wrap things up like that. And it was a fun little project there, although I will say, and it kind of will lead into the topic of the day, I'm getting tired of losing. I'm really rooting for Tampa Bay to win, even though they don't have a chance in some of these games. And so that it's starting to grow on me as I play the last round of this as I come down the back nine, as you say. So we'll talk about that when what we're playing. But so I've been doing mostly football, I think. I don't know if I've played anything else but the football. No, I've been pretty steady with that. I did a couple of I did some streams, and holy cow, I got some really cool games on the stream. Between some of the different games I played.
I've unsubbed a couple times.
Yeah, no, I think I streamed some of the momentum. I think I streamed some of the game-winning drive and some of the fast drive. So I've streamed a couple different games there. And so, yeah. So
what is it with the 76 Bengals?
They're 10-4 according to the record.
10-4. That was my football team when I was a little kid. Was the Bengals, and so they should not be struggling with the Tampa Bay Bucks. But obviously, it was more than one in momentum, and they lost in game-winning drive too. Or Tampa beat them in game-winning drive too, right? It wasn't just a one; it was a couple.
No, I think it was. I might have been a C-Lock game.
Okay, and they struggled in fast drive. I mean, that was just kind of a Phyllis.
Yeah, they struggled for a while.
Just ugly.
Yeah, no, it was momentum and the Mike Sealock game that they beat the Bengals.
Is there anything you noticed? Because, once is interesting, but I don't know where the Bengals would be appreciably weak.
Well, when you're doing a one-off, I mean, if you get a couple of bad dice rolls,
that's true,
and you turn it over, just like even the Sealock game, you get one roll for the half and one roll for the second half. And so if you happen to roll the 0 or roll the 3 instead of the 17, that's going to kill your game. So it just, sometimes you just get dice rolls like that, and it happens. Now, most of the time the favorite's going to win the game, but I mean, occasionally, you get those games where it's just all one way. We've all played those, and we've seen our favorite team win and lose like that as well. So,
yeah.
I haven't noticed anything per se. It's just, the edge definitely goes to Cincinnati, but it's just when you're rolling dice, sometimes it's just like, wow, I can't believe that they're
I
punting or fumbling or whatever it is,
Goes back to the basic things that
missing a field goal. You wouldn't believe how many field goals I've been missing in extra points in 76 for both for all the teams.
Right.
I mean, I think I was 0 for 2 on extra points for Tampa Bay last night playing a game.
Wow.
I mean, the extra point was 11 to 45 or 11 to 51, but I'm rolling high 50s and 60s, and the points are being missed left and right.
Yeah, if you roll a 6, feel like it's done.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how many extra points and field goals I've missed for the 76 Buccaneers. And that's another thing I'm going to look at too.
You know who you should have for a kicker in 76. You owned one of these. I did as a kid too. What was it, Mr. Kicker?
Yeah, what was it that Super Joe?
Yeah, you pressed on the helmet.
Yeah,
pressed to the top. Yeah,
I think was it Super Jock Joe or something like that?
Something like that.
And you hit this helmet and smash. Yeah, I would have had a better chance than the guy I can't believe they kept him the whole season. How bad he was. He was the punter too, and he couldn't punt either. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that I just been playing mostly football. I'm getting a wicked hockey itch right now, but before I do the hockey itch, I want to finish this football project, and then I want to finish up my Spiders in Strat PC baseball, and I'd like to kind of continue on with my 1979 baseball season, mostly season ticket, but a little bit of payoff pitch in there as well. So I want to wrap up some of these projects here. I really do.
All right, and I think the point I was going to make was that whenever you pull out cards and dice or something, you want to have the team that's lowly have some chance to win.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want them to lose every single time, because then why play?
But then again, it's wow, that's the team that struggled with them.
Yeah,
really?
but if Tampa Bay lost 42-0 like they did to Pittsburgh, they shouldn't be beating them in any game. Maybe have a couple of close ones. Maybe it's close at the half or something like that. But realistically, they should not win that game ever. So I always say, well, why play if you can't win? Well, at that point, no, you can't win. You just can't. If you're the New Jersey Devils playing the Oilers when they lost 13-4 or whatever it was, I played that game a couple of times. New Jersey had a lead in that game, and that shouldn't happen either. But again, when you get teams that are that bad and teams that are that good, when you're on either end of the spectrum there, it's hard to get those together.
The other thing is that everything is rated for an entire season, and not just for the 1 week that you're playing.
Right.
And so think teams can be better, teams can be worse. Okay, what have I been playing? I have a new piece of equipment coming this week, and so I haven't been playing as much because now I have to start backing things off of old computers to get ready to put them on the new computers. But I did yesterday do my Super Bowl pre-play. I think I can legally mention the word Super Bowl.
It's a superb owl.
It's a superb owl of Tostitos and queso. And so I was surprised by my result. I had Kansas City winning 31-17. I used 2nd and 10 because that season is out and finished. And it's also assuming that Patrick Mahomes has a healthy ankle. Mm-hmm. And it was a defensive slobber knocker, as our friend Al would say. Philadelphia fumbled on the first play from scrimmage. I believe Hurts was sacked twice in the first quarter. And then eventually the Eagles started to sack Mahomes and pick him off. I believe Mahomes was picked off twice. But despite the fact in 2nd and 10, you don't get that many carries for running backs. They're all good. And modern defenses tend to go zone, which is a 5-point bump in a runner's rating. So although they're not running it as much, they're running it much more effectively. And so it was 14-10 at the half, Kansas City, and I was able to run 2 long drives for KC in the third quarter, which were both capped by touchdowns. Philadelphia started to scramble back. They had the ball down 31-17. You can pull that one out of the fire if you're quick enough, and Hurts just couldn't put it in the end zone quick enough to force another onside kick. So I think when I do those pre-plays, discount what happens, but with the Eagles being 1.5 to 2.5 point favorites, depending on which book you're looking at, and congratulations, you can legally bet on that in Massachusetts now. Mm-hmm. We can't here in Vermont. Kansas City blew them out. I mean, it was 31-10 until like 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was like an old-fashioned Super Bowl, kind of a one-sided thing. I will play this week in Fast Drive football, because when I did the conference championships in Fast Drive football, the results were reasonably close. Philadelphia blew out San Francisco on my replay, and Cincinnati had a walk-off touchdown. So we knew that would be a one-score game either way. So what else have I been doing? So won't be much in my 2001 baseball replay this week, because we'll be getting things set up and raring to go probably next week. I think the first couple streams, because we have to test out everything now new, we'll do something else. So a lot of pitchers duels. It was a year that was considered a high offensive year. And if you've watched any of those streams, we talk about B12 and creams and steroids and all that. But boy, are we getting a lot of 2-1, 3-2, well-pitched, legitimately well-pitched games. And there's a guy that comes in and we're kind of half expecting there to be a lot of offense and going, another pitcher's duel. So you got a bunch of those you can watch while we're kind of changing things midweek here. So what else have I been playing? I think that's been pretty much it. Once I started shopping for equipment, my kind of focus went on there. Again, we'll be doing a fast try. Oh, I did a why I play strat hockey video. I posted that one Sunday, and along with the bowling stuff that I do, it's not really a sim type thing. And so I've been playing a lot, but just not a lot of sim type stuff.
Cool.
I'm learning about how you brought up the point the other day or a while ago. You felt like I was chucking the ball down the lane and seeing what happens. But each bowling lane in a bowling alley is laid a little bit different, whether the wood or acrylics are warped or whatever. And of course, the oil pattern they use varies sometimes from lane to lane as well. It might be the same pattern, but even a machine putting it on is never going to be perfect. And so I kind of liken league bowling like that to playing a par 3 in golf. If you start playing it one way, you're going to move enough of the oil on the lanes or stand in a different spot that you're going to have to adjust on the fly as you go. And so what starts might be easy. You'll be adjusting a couple times by the finish. So that's been fun to learn.
Yeah, playing new games is kind of fun like that.
Mm-hmm. And frustrating.
Yeah. I can see that too.
So that's pretty much it.
All right. So should we get on to the topic of the day?
Yeah, I have no plugs to pull today.
Alrighty, so today we want to talk about playing as the favorite and playing as the underdog. And as you know, I'm part of a small group of people who loves playing really bad teams for some reason. I don't know why, but I do. The 76 Buccaneers are some of my favorites. The California Golden Seals, Kansas City Scouts.
I think for you, it's
Cleveland Spiders.
That's right. I sent you something the other night about some bad teams from the 40s as well.
Yeah.
I think when you came into the hobby, this part of the hobby, you saw everyone playing championship teams. All right, we're going to take the 1985 Bears and put them against the 1999 St. Louis Rams, and someone's going to become the king of the hill or whatever.
Yep.
And I think you would that. No, I don't want to do that. And you have an affinity for the creamsicles, which is amazing since you grew up in New England. And so, I think that's there are a few of you, though. Philip Loopy in the old Hafner game has pretty much done the League of Losers in baseball. All those 110, 120 lost teams. Not sure the Spiders were involved, but the 62 Mets and that. And what, I think one of the reasons why those get played, and you can add on to this, is you think you can do better. And the bar isn't very high if you only win.
I don't know if it's so much to see if I can do better when I play as the underdog. I do think you are very correct in what you said about when I first started playing, sports sims, cards, and dice. It was 27 Yankees. Everyone's playing the 27 Yankees, and everyone's playing the World Series teams. And a lot of times when you order games, you get the top 4 teams, and that's who you play. And,
right.
And I just felt, and even Strat, they card the top 6 or 6 better teams. And the mediocre and the bottom teams just don't get any love. And I just, I was always intrigued about how bad teams were and, kind of reliving that, so to speak. And so that's kind of why I get on that. And, I got my go-to teams that I play. But when I go into playing as the underdog, there's not a lot of expectations, that's the thing.
Right. Hard to be disappointed for a team that didn't win a game if they don't win a game, Yeah,
and then the Spiders, too. And in fact, the first time I tried the Spiders, I did get aggravated because I was like, man, I can't do anything. Well, that was the idea, that you're playing the worst team ever. And so don't expect to win any games and don't expect to get those clutch hits. And so you got to go in with a certain mentality when you're playing bad teams that you're going to be disappointed. They're going to lose the games. They're not going to play well. They're going to lose in weird ways. And it's going to be overall frustrating if you're playing this to win. So I try to go into these things more not to win, not trying to make them win, but just to see the results. And do my results mimic real life or not? Are my results close to what happened? Are they worse? Are they better? And so when I go back to play the underdogs, that's what it's about. It's just about showing the other team some love, playing a little differently than just grabbing the top 2 teams. And what I also like to do is when I first grab a new game, I really like to grab a really good team and a really bad team and put the game engine to the test.
Stress it out, or play 2 bad teams, because every time you see them, showing off a new game or something, it's always the better teams. Of course, that's who, but majority of people are going to play. But if you offer
the bottom teams, I want to play them. I want to play the bottom teams, and I want to see how the game handles that. And I'm not going to mention the games off the top of my head, but there was some that I was like, boy, I don't know how a bottom team can ever win in this game. Seriously, because they just never control the play, and I just don't know how they're going to beat a better team just by looking at the cards and reading the directions. To much surprise, these teams do win games, and I'm glad that it does happen. But there were some games that, boy, I don't think I'm ever going to win a game with this team here. And so I purposely will press the bad teams. To this point, I have not found a game that a bad team cannot at least win some. It's not like
right.
Every game I played with the Seals, they've lost, or the Buccaneers, they've lost, or whoever, or even the Spiders. They've all managed to pull out wins. So I'm glad that the game engine does allow for that to happen. But there's just some kind of an intrigue with me about bad teams, especially expansion teams. I've always been a fan of expansion teams and newer teams coming into the league and taking the lumps and the whole bit. So that's just kind of what it was with me as far as playing Underdogs. Now, do you ever play Underdogs?
In my solo single season projects, you play against an underdog with whatever the team. Now, I'm going to come back at this as the favorite. There's no underdog with the 85, 86.
So you don't really purposely go out of your way.
Do I intentionally go that? No, I really don't. You figure over the course of either a stream project or a single season team project, you're going to run into not everything can be the Red Sox and the Yankees or the Giants and the Cowboys for that instance. You're going to have good team play, bad team. And since I play the pure as close to cards and dice as I can with the Stratomatic engine, I'm coaching both the good team and the bad team. And it's always, I was talking to you one night, I was doing the Celtics and the Washington Bullets from 85, 86. And you knew the Celtics would come back. But at one point, the Bullets, who weren't a horrible team, I mean, they weren't a 15-win team by any stretch, had the Celtics down 18 in Landover. It's like, whoa,
yeah,
okay.
Right. Yeah.
And you said, no, they're coming back. And we went, and the Celtics did come back. It took them until about 4 minutes to go in the game to pull ahead. But yeah, so I think that kind of itch gets scratched when you're doing a single season project for whatever. And again, most of some of them are really good teams, but if you're pulling out a mid-70s Red Sox team or an early 80s Red Sox team, guess what? They aren't the favorites. And you kind of go through and you play better teams and you play worse teams. Even if you do take a championship team, that doesn't mean they were the best team in the regular season. And so you kind of get that fixed in that way. You get the highs and the lows. And I think when you take an underdog team and they beat the team that you're coaching, and again, I always try to coach as fair as I can, that could be quite aggravating because going in, thinking that 77 Red Sox replay, which I'm not sure I'll continue on or not. The Blue Jays and Mariners were expansion teams, and they both were well over 100 losses, and you see them coming up on the calendar, and you're going to Toronto, and you have all three games that you think you can win, and you come out of there with your tail tucked because you've won one. And you get aggravated at that. And again, they are bad. You know that they're bad. You can look at the cards and go, how did this team win 60 or 55, let alone 40? And it's like, oh, okay, so you ran into a hot pitcher who got all the good dice rolls or whatever, but just like you did with the Tampa project. It was, okay, you beat some teams that Tampa had no right to beat, but it does. And I think it kind of averages out over the course of the season. Even with the baseball replays I do on the channel, at some point, especially late in the year, you got team grinding to get in the playoffs going against a bad last place team. And look, this game means something. And so this team that's been out of it since July, that I've been joking they're waiting for football season, ends up playing in a meaningful game. And it's a challenge. It's not a gimme win, and
I've played some of those in my 79 season replay. There's been a couple of times where I look and it's like it is super fun playing the top teams because it really does matter in the pennant race. But occasionally there's like a third place team, and this third place team is 7 games out, and I'm in July or August, so it's like okay, they're out, but there's still a chance. Mm-hmm. And so they're coming up against a real bad team. Excuse me one second here.
Yep.
I got a coughing fit going on. I don't know why. So I think like the Braves are in last place, and it was a team in the Braves are in the East in the National League.
No, not in that. They're in the West.
So they're in the West. So they are
now in the East, okay. but then it would be.
So there was a team in the West that was in third place, and I forget who it was. Maybe it was I don't even want to mention,
like a Houston or something like that.
Yeah, somebody like that, because the Reds are really running away with it. But there was a team in second or third place that was 7 games back, and they had a few games against the Braves, who were in last place and very awful in the year I'm playing. And I said, something, I'm going to play that one. And I don't know if I streamed it or if I just played it or not, but it's like, something, I'm going to show the bad team a little bit of love. It's an important game for this team because if they can win it, they'll inch up towards the top team. And so I will play those games. It doesn't always have to be the top 2 or the top 3. Every now and then when you're playing a bottom team, it's fun to throw that in and say, okay, this is it's not a must win, but when you're playing the bad teams, you need to get those wins while you can. And so I'll play those, and those will be fun. To see if that team that's completely out of it, in July or August, shows any life at all. And so I do play those, and those are kind of fun. I will add one thing about playing as the underdog, though. When you win, it is jubilation.
Oh, of course.
Because it's like, wow, this was unexpected, or maybe they won that game in real life and you actually won it again. It's like, that's kind of cool because you're not expecting them to win because it's so difficult. Things have to go just right for them to win. The percentages are against them the whole bit. So there is jubilation when you win.
I think especially in football because you can't have, we had 2 teams in the last 15 years run the table the wrong way. The Lions ran the table the wrong way, and Cleveland went a full year without winning a game too. And so, so when you go into it and you have 0 wins on your dance card, and you pull one off, like whoa, I could certainly
it's a big deal. Now, conversely, so I'm going to swap over to playing as the favorites. Okay. After a while of playing as the underdogs, whether it's the Seals or whether it's the Buccaneers or whether it's the Spiders. I'll play a game of, quote, normal teams, and the results are much better. They're more fun. It just, when you complete that pass for the touchdown or you hit that field goal, you score that goal, or you hit that home run, and that doesn't happen with the underdogs. It's a lot of fun when you finally get to play as a good team because, again, the underdogs are fun to play with, but after a while, teams that just can't come through, it wears on you. It really does. And even now, as I'm playing, the fourth playthrough here in my Buccaneer project, they lost the game the other night, and I actually I got upset. I was mad that they lost because they were leading, and they blew it. And I was like, "You guys blew it. You had a chance to win this game, and you blew it." But they didn't. They didn't win it in real life either. So I'm starting to become a little bit emotional now. As I've been playing this team so much the last few weeks, I've become attached to them again, and I don't want them to lose, even though the whole idea was to see how much they would lose. So now I get the itch now to play good teams, to play favorites, so to speak, because, again, you can do more things with a better team. Better things happen. Good things happen when you play as the favorite. You have stronger guys. The cards are better. If it's a team card, the team cards are better. Numbers are better in general when you're playing as a better team than a bottom team.
Oh, they are well-oiled machines. The 85-86 Celtics, probably the best team I have ever taken out on the tabletop or PC or whatever. They are a well-oiled machine. They win their games by an average of 15 points. which is right about where they were doing in real life. They just don't beat teams. They destroy teams. And so you get into like a Sacramento or Golden State or someone that, okay, how long are we going to be competitive? But it doesn't mean they're a perfect team, because when I let the computer choose for me with the Celtics who plays and who doesn't, as far as who's going to be dressed for the game. And Kevin McHale, over the course of that season, missed 15, 16, 17 games. So it's not DJ, Danny, Larry, Kevin, and Parrish for all 82. They're going to miss their games. Yeah. And you plug in either a Scott Wedman or a Bill Walton into McHale's spot in the starting, and it's like, oh dear. Okay, so how am I going to make up for that production? Or Greg Kite and Jerry Sheasting on the floor together. Now in Strat, what happens is on your shooting cards, you can have a blank is a missed shot, and O is an open, makes on an open shot, and X is a shot made, and an R is called a replay. And if you're playing the card and dice game, you'd get it even on an open shot, you take another card. And so it does get hugely frustrating when you've got Sheasting open for a jumper and you're rolling and it's an R. He's got a pass. You're open, take the shot.
Right.
And so not everyone on those teams is going to be super, super, super. But boy, what for that 3 to 6 minutes a game when they are clicking like you wouldn't believe, it is so much fun. Yeah. It is so much fun. And to see, wait, this was a 3-point game, looking up, oh, we're up 15 now. I guess we can sit you down and sit you down and sit you down. So yes, it's fun. And for the streaming part, when you're picking teams to show off in a game that you think people are going to be interested in, you're playing the favorites of that season. But again, every team has flaws. And so sometimes it's the bullpen that's a little bit short, or you expect a Reggie Jackson to do something and he strikes out 4 times or whatever. I mean, streaming, you're picking things that you're thinking that people are going to watch. But especially in baseball, a team that won 4 out of 10 is going to win 4 out of 10. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, that one of those 4 could come against, massive team on a stream.
Yeah,
because it can happen.
Well, like I say, when you play these games as the favorite, you tend to know more players. Like if you took like the top 4 teams and the bottom 4 teams, you're going to know more on the top 4 teams just because they're better and they got better players and they're more household names and the whole bit. Like this Buccaneers team, I'm knowing the players now because I played so much, but. Honestly, I just knew them as a team. They were bad. I really couldn't tell you anybody that played on that team.
The only person I can name on that roster is Steve Spurrier.
Yep. Spurrier, and the son, the coach's son played there.
McVay's coach.
McKay's coach. Yeah, McKay's son played, and he was okay. But aside from that, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the running back, the receivers. I only knew the kicker because I like kickers, and I followed him because he was so bad. But you tend to know more players, too. So, whether you're playing alone or whether you're streaming the game, you have people you can identify with, when you're playing the better teams. Now, I will say the one downside to playing as a favorite is that if you lose a game to a bad team, that gets a little frustrating. And again, anybody can beat anybody, even the best and the worst. It's harder for the underdogs to win. But when I'm playing a game like that, was it Apper or Hockey Bones I played a few months ago, and I'm playing in a third line left winger for this team with a small chance of scoring, scores on the last play of the game to beat the Bruins. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Never heard of this guy. He's out there with 30 seconds left, on the third line left wing, and he gets a shot on goal, and I roll within his range, and I beat the goalie with a shot, and they win it. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Really?
You get a good team. I would put the 75-76 Islanders, they're certainly not mediocre, but they're not going to win a cup. So I'm not sure how you would define favorites. And one of the things that Strat does really well is it emulates different styles of play. And so anytime that team played Philly, I think on paper they were better than Philly. They had deeper scoring, and their defense, I think, was better. But Philly would antagonize the living daylights out of you, and they could survive killing penalties as long as Bobby Clark wasn't in the box himself, because Bobby Clark was just a fantastic defenseman and all that. And so you kind of get frustrated knowing that you're going to spend most of the time in the box with stupid penalties because you got drawn into it. And B, because that team isn't quite there yet. This is not a cup team. I got them to the cup and playing them in Action PC, but really this is not a cup team. And they're playing teams that are cup level, the Phillies, the Montreals. I think Buffalo and Boston were fantastic that year. And so you know what they're good at, you know what they're not good at, and then they get someone that you know they're going to have trouble beating, and they get smoked because, like I know we're better than you, but you to play that style. The Bruins have that style too, that the Flyers had, not as angry as what the Broad Street Bullies did. And you just walk away from the table just aggravated as anything, going, look, that was a winnable game. We only lost 3-2 or whatever, but Gillies was in the box for 6 minutes, and I couldn't use the third line because Howard got a game misconduct and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And so, that's the other thing, is that teams that are, I suppose those decent Patriot teams in the late 70s would qualify for that. They're good, but they're not great.
Second, third place teams always either barely make the playoffs or barely miss the playoffs, but never went anywhere. So there was always a successful season, so to speak, because you weren't in last place, you weren't in fourth place, you were towards the top of the division all the time. But you just couldn't crack. You might have gotten in the playoffs, but you could never win that playoff game. And then finally, when 85, when they got to the Super Bowl, it was like, holy cow, we won a few games. We got crushed in the Super Bowl, but hey, we were happy that we won a playoff game.
We went down to Miami and won it for the first time in 15 years too.
Yeah, beat Pittsburgh that year. I think it was the Raiders. No, it was the Jets, the Raiders, and Miami.
And you squished the fish.
Yep, and I do remember when we went into Pittsburgh there, and they beat, but I think it was the Tom Brady year, 2001, when they blocked the field goal and Troy Brown ran it back. And
that was the game that kind of reminded me of what was going to happen for Kansas City a couple of weeks ago when Mahomes went down, and I forget who the 18,000-year-old replacement was that drove him down 98 yards to score. Because remember, in the Pittsburgh game that first Super Bowl year, it was Bledsoe who came off the bench to beat him.
Yep, I actually was like, put Bledsoe in the Super Bowl. I was a Bledsoe guy, and I'm glad I was wrong.
and John Madden thought that the Patriots should have played for overtime on that one too when they had the ball. But so there's a kind of mid-level dynamic of you're supposed to beat most teams, but no, there's a handful of teams that you're going to get, especially not necessarily in football, because A, it's such a short season. And B, really, unless that great team is in your division, chances are you're never going to face it. Yeah. But if you do a basketball, hockey, or baseball replay, let's say you're a 90-win team and the Mets are coming into town, please don't hurt me too much. And so I think unless you are doing a championship team in a single team replay, I think you're going to get the mix. You're going to see the great teams come in, and if you can steal a couple against the 86 Mets or 84 Tigers or 85, 86 Celtics or whatever, you're going to be happy with that. But again, I think you're also going to be aggravated when you get, Phil Niekro's Atlanta Braves or any of the California Golden Seals or any of the other bottom feeders. Is like, no, that's winnable. I needed that game. Yeah.
Sometimes when I play a new game, not only do I test the bad teams or whatever, but sometimes just to get a feel for the game, I like to, especially if it's a hockey, I like to grab the 69-70 Bruins and have them play the Seals.
They probably are the best team never to win the Cup.
Oh, no, that was 70-71.
I'm sorry, yeah.
So I used to go 69, one of the two, but 69, 70,
70, that was the Bobby Orr thing.
And I did that with Strat. I started learning Strat, so I was like, Bruins played the Seals. I did that with Appa. Bruins played the Seals. I did that with Hockey Bones. Bruins plays the Seals. And it's just always, because the chances of the Bruins winning the game is going to be really good. Let's just face it, really good. And it just gives me that way, if I can get my favorite team to win, even against a bad team, while I'm learning a game, it makes it more fun for me. That I'm learning a game and the team wins, yay, Bruins win. I feel good about myself and I'm learning how to play the game. Whereas if I went the other way and I played Seals against Canadians, I got destroyed. That's the first impression of a game. I don't want that. I want my first impression to be a good one. So a lot of times I play a team that I know I'm going to win and beat up pretty good. And sometimes I do that with any game I play. Let me play good versus bad so I can beat somebody up when I'm first playing the game and really enjoy the game because I got a nice win. I feel good about it. I'm learning the game, blah, blah, blah. So I tend to do that. That's just what I do. And then as I get better with the game, I learn the game a little bit more, then I can bring in some better matchups in the whole bit. But I'll do that sometimes there. So I don't know what I like playing more. I like the surprise of playing as the underdog and just kind of seeing how many games they can win and how bad it is, but it does get frustrating at times. But playing as the favorite, like I say, winning all the time can be just as bad as losing all the time.
I get bored with that 85, 86 Celtics team just because, it's 20 points in the third quarter. And how, got to start managing minutes.
But then as you play more and more, you think that they should win them all. Because they're that good, and it's like
you kind of how the heck. And then when 5 or 6 games
when Larry Bird goes 40% from the floor, you're just like, oh my god, this game is broken. Larry Bird has never done that, but he does, But in your mind, you're thinking you should be winning big, And when the Bruins aren't scoring goals, or they lose a weird game, or the whoever you're playing as football loses a game, it's just like, oh my gosh. So playing as the favorite sometimes has its ups and downs too. I mean,
the great thing is you bring up a good point about if you're testing out a new game or you're buying a new set of cards or whatever. Like, okay, how good are they? And if you know the game well, Hockey Bones well, Appa Hockey well. I'm pretty familiar with how Strat works. Let's take this team out for a spin. Oh my God! It's just like if you're talking about the $76 of the Cleveland Spiders being the Yugos of the auto world. Let's go out and drive the Ferrari and Lamborghini for a while. Like, oh my goodness gracious! Yeah, they are that. They are that good. So let me throw a wrinkle in here because here's something that we didn't discuss. What about a 500 team? You brought this up a little bit, but I think for a lot of people out there, it's single. If you're taking out a single team replay, and not every team is going to be championship quality, and not everyone can be the 62 Mets either. But if your 14-year-old season, they were right around 500, and you want to go back into the Wayback Machine and do that, what would be your expectations about that? I mean, do you feel happy when you can beat the good teams and then the Braves come to town and you get a rain delay and get swept in a doubleheader?
See, that's the one thing about the middle teams that it's kind of I don't even know how to describe it. Like the better teams are the better teams. So there's an interest to play the better teams. The horrible teams, they're so bad. There's an interest to play the horrible teams. The teams in the middle, the 500 teams, the teams that just missed the playoffs, or the teams that were, maybe 4-10 in football back in the day.
Right.
There's no, I mean, unless it's my home team, that's that team. Like, I would have no interest in playing the 76 Atlanta Falcons. I'm just throwing a name out there. If they were 4-10, let's say, or the New Orleans Saints, or somebody like that was just very mediocre. That, to me, because I don't know the team as much, it doesn't get the attention that the top teams and the bottom teams get. So it's kind of like Jan Brady, kind of in the middle, and it's just. Every now and then Jan Brady gets her own episode to make her feel like she was part of the family, But I mean, let's face it, Marsha was the older one, and Cindy was the younger one, and that's just who gets the attention. And so when you're talking middle teams, maybe that's something I should look at next. But it's like they don't have a. They're not going to finish in the bottom, but they're not going to finish at the top. So,
well, in hockey and basketball, it doesn't really matter as long as they finish in the top 8.
Right, but I mean, if you got a mid-level team that's not going to make the playoffs, but they're not so bad at the bottom that you celebrate every win either. You know what I mean?
If you look, we'll call it Montreal Expos syndrome, because they were for a long time a borderline 500 team, few games here, there, and had a lot of talent. Now, when I pick out games to stream, obviously the top of the pecking order is 2 division leaders, because at the time that's who, best versus the best. But I have no trouble doing good team against team with potential. Can that 78 team win 84? And if you can change 6 games for somebody, someone else needs to be changed that much too. And so, because it all needs to come out at 500 for everybody by the time that the year is over in the grand scheme of things. And so you try to go and show off that overperforming team when they're overperforming, just to get them some good looks and just to get familiar with them, because they may be able to hold on to it the entire year, and you want to be familiar with them when the time comes. There's nothing worse than when you're with television today when it comes to especially baseball, and you got a small market team that sneaks in the back door, and no one on a national level has seen that team all year. And now we're supposed to care about the Tampa Bay Rays. Well, you wouldn't put them on ESPN or TBS when they were streaking to make the playoff spot, but since they're in the playoffs, you're obligated to show them.
Yeah.
Why are the ratings bad? You never showed them. That's why people like to be with teams that are familiar. And so, yes, I like playing the mediocre versus the good, because it's not a slam dunk win for the good. And if you do it right, the mediocre teams are going to have a star hitter, or you get them on a day when their star pitcher goes. I guess towards the later mid 70s, Seaver with the Mets, J.R. Richard with the Astros.
Oh yeah. If you're playing mediocre versus good, but I'm thinking, if I had a choice between mediocre versus mediocre or good versus bad, I'm going to play the good versus bad, because there's more at stake. Because the good team is supposed to win, but if they don't, it's going to hurt them in their playoff chances or the chance to finish first or whatever it is. Where you get 2 mediocre teams, they're not going to finish last, they're not going to finish first. There's nothing on the line here.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, it depends on where you are in the season, I suppose. I mean, if you got 2 6-6 teams playing, that's going to be
6-6 going to be fighting for a wild card.
Yeah, and last year they would have, yeah. But on a normal year, that's
5-11 in the NFL is fighting for a wild card.
Yeah, sadly it is. But if you got a 10-2 team playing a 1-11 team, it's like I think I would rather play that. I would rather play that, because that top team is supposed to win, and now they have to go out and prove it. And if they win, they're moving toward. If they lose, what an upset that is! What a story that's going to be. There's not much of a story when 2 mediocre teams play each other.
I'm going to disagree with them, just based on using your example. So, first week in December, you got a 10-2 team against a 2-10 team, and it's not going to be the 4:25 game on Fox for sure. So it's a 1:00 game, and yes, it's potential that, let's say, a Jacksonville upsets Dallas or something like that. I think the story that week are 12, are the 2 7-5 teams that are maybe in the same division, because that game would matter a lot for seeding potential, and you may not catch the 10-win team. You're playing that first weekend of the playoffs anyway if you get in. But there's a huge difference for one of those teams to play one of those games at home as opposed to playing on the road.
Oh, I understand, but again, I guess it depends on the matchup. Yes, if you got division foes playing at 500 in football, they're fighting for playoff spots in their division. But you got the Rams, who are basically out of it, and let's just say they're taking on the Cleveland Browns, and they're both 500. that's not a game that I'm interested in. Division games are different. You see, you threw a curveball in there.
That's right.
You threw a curveball and you kind of went off the board and took curveballs for 50. So division games are always going to be important. Division games are always important. But I'm just saying, like your run of the mill, average, yuckity yuck teams.
Would I take 270 win teams in the middle of September? No. I wouldn't in baseball. I would try to go with whatever that is there. But because there are more teams making the playoffs now, again, what game means the most on a given day for that? And it also depends on the time of the year. Mm-hmm. I tend to feature the crappier teams earlier in the season before they get too bogged down. Because, look, if you're 30 games out of first place and it's the 1st of August, no.
I'm the same way, too. I played a lot of bad teams in my 79 replay to start, just so I could kind of see them, because I have all the teams printed, so I wanted to print all the teams. And, whether I streamed or whether I didn't stream, it was fun for me to see the bad teams play. And, because I still recognize a lot of the names and the whole bit. So it is enjoyable, when I did that, too. But, yeah, as I've gone along, I tend to do like to show off the better teams, especially if I'm doing a replay where I'm playing a game of the week type of thing, and the other games are getting simulated somehow, whether a quick play or whether they're on the computer. So for me, if I'm going to showcase a game, early on I'll pick some teams that had no chance at all, just so I can see them, because I like to see them. But you're right, as you go along during the season, it's like, okay, I don't need to see this team again, But then again, like I say, you don't want Yankees Red Sox 35 times either.
Absolutely not.
You want to mix that up,
Not even I do that, but no, you there's a balance there.
Yeah.
And you go back to the early 80s, and we're going to show you a late season game between the Celtics and the 76ers. Good God, why are you doing that? They're both in the playoffs. They're both going to be closer to top seeds. The Celtics are going to have home court as long as they're in there.
Yep.
Show me a game between a potential 4 and a 5, or someone is a 7 or an 8 that's trying to lock down the playoff bid. Mm-hmm. Instead of two teams that you got to dress these players because it's national TV. Why? The game, they're both in the playoffs. The game's meaningless. No one's catching the Celtics. They're going to be a 1 or a 2. And so the 76ers pretty much have 3 locked up. Why are you showing this to us?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to throw out here before we wrap it up is as far as playing the favorites, I'm slowly starting to play some Yankees and Canadians on my channel. And I'd throw Steelers in there as well, because they were a team from the 70s that were just dominant, that, it was frustrating to see that they were so dominant. But I did play Yankees Angels on my channel, and I think I played a Canadians game the other day against the Blackhawks. So, so I'm starting to play the teams that really crushed the hopes and dreams of me when I was a kid. But they are the better teams, and you look at the rosters and you shake your head at how good they were. So now, because it's so much time, it's more of a respect thing right now. It's okay.
Oh, sure.
I hated them as a kid because they damaged my sports dreams, but you got to give them respect. So now I'm playing them, and I played the one Yankees game. So I need to do the more Yankees, even though, again, Red Sox, Yankees, blah, 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 blah. I really do. I got to give them their due when I start playing as the favorite. Same with the Canadians, and the same with the Steelers. I really want to start playing some teams that were good, and try to appreciate them now that I'm older, and that, yep. And again, no matter what happens, it's all fake. Whatever happened in the past has been done. I can't change it, So if they win, great. If they lose, great. But I kind of want to conquer that hurdle next, because I've always avoided those teams to avoid bringing up the bad memories. But I think now I want to, I need to respect the good teams from the past. And when I play as the favorite, I want to have these guys on my table as well. So,
yep.
Anyway, all righty. So before we wrap things up, we want to know your thoughts on this, playing as the favorite or playing as the underdog, or maybe even playing as the 500 teams. What are your thoughts on that when you set up to play games? Do you avoid certain games, or do you showcase certain games? So how do you handle it? Do you like to play only the best teams? Do you play the bottom teams? Do you play the middle teams? Let us know in the comments. All righty, so now let's get to our stars of the week. for episode 170. Our third star is Mike Martin.
Yay!
Thank you, Mike, so much for being a star of the week. Our second star is a new Patreon, Keith Holinsky.
Woohoo!
Keith, thank you so much for supporting the show. It really means a lot to us.
Thank you.
And number one star, another new Patreon, James Caudill. James.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And we should have sent you both invites into the Discord. You can choose not to go to the Discord. That's fine. But that's where we have all our Patreons, our $5 a month Patreons. And we have discussions in there about the show and a few other things going on with us here. And we try to show some things off behind the scenes and just give you a little bit more digital to dice on a monthly basis. So, and we are due for another Patreon event that So let me get through this weekend because I got working all weekend at the rink, and then I got the wife's birthday, Valentine's Day. So I think next week we're gonna bang out another Patreon event, and get you guys caught up with that. So anyway, all righty. So shall we wrap up episode 170?
Absolutely.
All right, this has been the Digital to Dice podcast. Ways to get a hold of us. DigitalToDice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. DigitalToDice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, Facebook.com/groups/Digital to Dice. And if you'd like to support the show over on Patreon, it's Patreon.com/Digital to Dice. And if you'd like some cool Digital to Dice gear for your Valentine sweetie, we do have a Cafe Press website set up. cafepress.com/Digital to Dice. All that is linked on our website as well if you'd like to go over there and do that. So
mouse pads are an acceptable gift, trust us.
The mouse pad comes out pretty good. Al's got one. A few other people got it. And if you have any Digital to Dice gear, take some pictures and put it on the Facebook page.
That'd be awesome.
Love to see the gear, the Digital to Dice gear that you guys have. So anyway, so I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.